Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Community safety is a matter of grave concern to many of our communities, and I know most New Zealanders pay their taxes with the expectation that the government uses those taxes to ensure that our communities are safe. So when issues of community safety come before this House, we on this side of the House take it very, very seriously. And as outlined by my senior colleagues who have spoken earlier, the Labour Party supports this bill, but there are, despite supporting it on the basis that we do want to ensure that there is safety in our communities, I have to say I share the concerns that the Honourable Phil Goff has shared with this House. When I look at the report of the committee, sir, it says that this bill is to amend to seek to amend the Parole and Sentencing Acts to enable the monitoring of offenders released from a sentence of 2 years or less and of offenders sentenced to intensive supervision. I also note, sir, that in this committee's report, there's been significant changes made by the committee. I note that the committee recommended that new Part 1AA be inserted, setting out amendments to the Corrections Act, and new clauses 2B and 2C. I also note that the committee recommended a new clause 2D and inserted new section 64A. So not having sat through that committee, but reading this particular report, I don't get a sense of confidence that the committee had confidence when the minister tabled this piece of legislation. And that concerns me, because when ministers who have the power and the resources table legislation that ends up being significantly amended by the committee, that concerns me about what this real thrust of the bill is. And I hear the member from New Zealand First talk about whether this bill is really about reducing prisoner numbers, and for this government to somehow paint themselves as being able to reduce those numbers and is not necessarily concerned about law and order. I also note, sir, that in the regulatory impact statement, and we have in Part 28, the Department intends to provide the courts with advice on whether offenders are suitable to have their whereabouts restricted and monitored by GPS in pre-sentence reports. And I just highlight the fact that they identify family violence offenders who pose a high risk to their victims, gang-affiliated offenders who pose a high risk to public safety, and the third one that the department identifies in this regulatory impact statement is high-risk sex offenders. This is of concern to me, sir, because in Māngere, we have one of which the community have been agitating for some time now and is wanting this government to remove him from the place that the Corrections Department have placed him in. They've placed this high-risk sex offender right next door to a school, a community that has many, many children. And yet the department is aware that this high-risk offender is also of imminent and high risk of reoffending. The department is aware that this sex offender raped a 13-year-old girl, and the concern there, sir, is that despite the department and the minister are trying to assure the community that this offender has 24/7 surveillance and has electronic monitoring, I have to say it was only yesterday, only yesterday, a member of the community reported to me that they saw this offender at Pack and Save in the morning, and he was out in the public. Now, I was told by the corrections officials that this offender has a range of conditions on his being placed next to the school at Jean Batten School in Māngere. Now, I'm going to follow this up, but I'm hopeful that the minister hearing this and the officials hearing this would ensure that this is not the offender that we're talking about, because this is a note given to me early this morning by a member of the Māngere community saying that they saw this man in Pack and Save. Now, this is a person supposedly with 24-hour surveillance and with electronic monitoring. I don't know whether he was basically, there are other people around him when he went to Pack and Save, or whether he slipped and gone out. See, the other assurance, sir, why I'm listening to the Honourable Phil Goff talking about how easy it is for people to slip the electronic monitoring is because there's been a number of examples. There's been a number of examples of people, Mr. Chairman, there's been a number of examples that have been repeated already in the media, not just this year, but I'd say in the last 8 years of this government. People slipping their monitoring and then re-offending. And that concerns me, sir, because if this is about community safety, if it's about law and order, if it's about keeping our children safe, as far as Māngere, the people of Māngere are concerned, sir, we don't have that confidence at this point in time. I have to say, sir, it was highlighted to be my colleague Susan Sue in Auckland, how the Asian community do not feel safe at all with the offending that is happening in Auckland and the appearance that these communities are being targeted by offenders. Generally, we know, sir, that whenever a burglary or some crime is committed in the community, it is usually by somebody who has been an offender before and has served time. So the plea I am saying, sir, is if the government is true about their need to ensure that there is ability for minor offenders to be able to attend funerals or whatnot, I want to know what it is exactly they intend to do with the high-risk sex offenders identified in this regulatory impact statement, and how this government intends to ensure that our children are safe from those who are of high risk of reoffending. Because at the moment, insofar as the people of Māngere are concerned, as long as that high-risk offender, imminent risk of reoffending, is located a few houses down from Jean Batten's school, the community don't feel safe. And what's worse now, sir, is the parents are having to adopt their behaviour in order to try and make and present some sort of a semblance of confidence and protection to the young people that are around that particular school. And so, and if the story pans out that this neighbour did in fact see that this man was at Pack and Save yesterday, and supposedly he was under some electronic monitoring and 24/7 surveillance, has this person then broken the conditions of his bail being located here? The other thing I'd say, sir, electronic monitoring isn't going to prevent necessarily people reoffending. I'm not sure this government has captured in this bill the holistic approach that they need to take. Because I pointed out earlier, in another bill that this government introduced here, there is a need for this government to address where we house those offenders who have been released, and particularly those offenders who are of high risk of reoffending. Because is it safe to place them next to children? I don't think so. And certainly the community of Māngere don't think so either.
Cool.